The warehouse is open. Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 52, The Great Gr8 Chase, featuring Joe Beninati, Barry Meisel, Dave Meisel. Joe, for those of you who are not aware, and you should be, longtime television play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals. He, along with his partner, the great Craig Laughlin, have brought audiences far and wide, top-notch chemistry, good humor, and memorable broadcasts for decades. Barry Meisel, President and COO of MeiGray, MeiGray.com. Dave Meisel, VP of Business Development, a lot of hats here. I want to make sure I get them all right. Director of Sales, Caps Program Director as well. He's somebody you're going to want to get to know as the great chase continues and then surpasses into that sort of next level of atmosphere. Gentlemen, thanks for joining the program today for Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 52.
Nice of you to include me, guys. I appreciate it. I'm going to learn as much as I try to inform today.
Well, Joe, thanks for dropping in. We appreciate having you since we've listened to you all our lives, ever since we've started tracking Ovi's jerseys and before. Scott, thanks for having all of us.
Of course. Pleasure's mine. Quick note, request list for Capitals playoffs and set 3 jerseys available now. Reach out to Dave, DW Meisel at MeiGray.com. I want to make sure I get that correct. Very good. At MeiGray.com. Ovechkin jerseys, you can go right to the website, MeiGray.com. Sweaters from the Great Chase available right now at MeiGray.com. Gentlemen, we'll start with sort of the wide telescope. When did you all think, and Joe, we'll start with you because you've been on the call for a long time. When did you think that he was going to get his shot to do this, what he's on the cusp of as we record?
I might reference this a couple of times during this discussion, but for me, I think it really started to click around goal number 500. 500 was such a fantastic accomplishment at that time, and the environment, the atmosphere at the arena was so great. And then when you sat back and you actually did some math and some long division and some other formulaic work, you figured, you know what? He might just do it, in that his timing has been such that he's been available for 95%. He's played in 95% of the games he's been eligible for. So you had the sense that there was going to be the longevity required to get it and the amazing talent. For me, it happened when he scored number 500 against the Hamburglar of all people and the Ottawa Senators.
Joe, that's a fascinating perspective because from the inside, I can't say when I thought that, but as the game-worn jersey authenticators for the Caps, we have Ovechkin's 300th NHL goal. We have his 400th NHL goal. But we know that Ovi started collecting and started wanting the things for himself and building that collection that is going to be a museum in Moscow, we're told. And it's fascinating that
it's already a museum in the state, Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fascinating that we love collectors and Ovi's a collector. But we stopped getting the milestones at 500. So maybe Ovi was doing the math along with you and said, I got a shot at this. I better start holding on to these.
I think I keep going back to that one. And then you get proof positive when you start to see the other milestones fall as quickly as they did. But for me, if you're asking when I first thought maybe he could ever be in a Wayne Gretzky discussion as far as 894, it was crossing 500.
Dave, how about you?
Well, I remember internally we started having this conversation in 2020, 21, and I looked at it from just a player aging perspective. Like I compared it to Jaromir Jagr, who scored 145 goals after turning 35, which he did in 2007-08. And then looking at where Ovechkin was at in 2020-21 at the beginning of that shortened COVID season. And I think this is even before we knew the season would be shortened, but we were talking about, like, all he has to do is follow Jagr's age curve, and he gets there. And, Jagr never scored more than 27 goals after turning 35. I didn't think Ovechkin was going to get better from that point, but certainly, like, we've been talking about this for over 4 years. Like, as, I think 500 projecting, but there's so much unknown between 500 and 895. So when he was getting into the 700s, it was like, and we're not seeing him decline. It's like, yeah, this could happen. And by the way, every time he's had a couple like injuries that kept him out a couple weeks or a couple months, every time he has one of those, he comes back and he's better. So it's almost like he's getting refreshed by these injuries.
Joe, you mentioned the durability and the age curve. And again, here in Washington and just watching wherever you're watching him from, he has been, pardon the Moscow pun, he's been a dynamo and a nearly unbreakable force. You've seen a lot of hockey. You've called a lot of games. The man is, knock on wood, just an unbelievable testimonial to taking care. We see LeBron and what he's doing, but hockey's a little more physical than the NBA, my friend.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And early in his career, towards the middle of his career, the dramatic hit totals, the incredibly strong, ferocious forechecks, I think you see far less of those nowadays as he's become 37, 38, 39 years of age. And that's just self-preservation. There are still nights when he will go out there and throw 4 or 5 hits right off the bat, and he gets energized. He gets fueled by that. There's no question. But for me, for the longest time, everybody's like, what number impresses you the most? Is it the Rocket Richards? Is it all this, that, and the other thing? It has to do with his durability, his ability to be in the game where at the start of his career and for all throughout his career, defenses have been designed to go after him. 2 and 3 people have been designed to go after him, hang all over him, try and hit back against him, and yet still these numbers go. And we've seen this more than anything in this sport. It's why I believe scoring goals now is so much harder than when Wayne achieved the record. No disrespect at all to number 99, who's the greatest hockey player of all time. We're saying, or I'm willing to say, that Ovechkin is the best goal scorer of all time because he's approaching these numbers against the greatest goalies. Nobody's ever played the position as well. The athletes have been bigger, stronger, faster. They're more refined. Their technique is so good. And yet this is a guy who's still scoring upwards of 40 and 50 every year as he's maturing, as he's aging. It's extraordinary work, and I'll never be jaded to it. I'm so appreciative the second I walk into the arena, knowing what could potentially unfold.
It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 52. Barry Meisel joining us, Joe Beninati, longtime TV play-by-play voice, Dave Meisel as well. Barry, real quick, you approach this from sort of a very interesting standpoint because, again, President and COO of MeiGray, you've got the collecting angle covered. You were a locker room scribe and somebody who covered the game. You got to be freaking out at watching something like this.
Let me tell you the unique position I have, and I'm gonna second Joe's comments because I look at it as a dinosaur who covered the game in the 80s and 90s. I had an incredibly unique perspective. Joe, I'm not sure you know this. I wrote Mike Bossy's autobiography, and
not a bad goal scorer.
I think Mike Bossy was the best goal scorer I ever scored, with one humongous 8 of an asterisk. And that is what you just said. And I will give you a very, very brief. When the Rangers traded for Mark Messier, after everyone in Edmonton and everyone in the NHL thought he may be done, the team doctor said, before the trade was official, he's quite a specimen. That is what Ovechkin is that Bossy wasn't. Ovechkin is an amazing specimen of an athlete, of a hitter, of a power forward, of a goal scorer. I'd never seen that combination. I guess I was a kid when Gordy played, but Gordie Howe's combination, and that's the difference. Bossy's as good as Ovechkin as a goal scorer, but Bossy finished with 573 because it was impossible for Bossy to take 10 years of hits and 10 years of everything that was given in that era and survive. And he retired prematurely because of a back injury. That is what makes Ovechkin his record so amazing. And that's why 500, 600, 700, I was pretty sure he was going to get there doing the math because Ovechkin was what a specimen.
And guys, this is why I think this is what's amazing is that I've seen it from behind the scenes And yes, Alex is 240 pounds of pure power, but there have been so many times, Barry and Dave and Scott, where I've seen him play with 3 or 4 different nagging ailments and things that might keep ordinary humans out of the lineup. He persisted. He kept going, and he'd be scoring 50 goals, and you'd say, how can you possibly do that with this, and this bothering you? It's just a mindset and a true love of the game. When I was watching Mike Bossy score goals as a kid, I couldn't appreciate how pure of a goal scorer he was. But that's the word that I keep coming back to with Alex. His shooting ability is so pure. He'll be scoring goals at 85. Wherever he decides to lace them up, he will still be able to score at that age. It's just the dramatic amount of time that he could have spent on the injured list, or, hey, let me take a night. Never took those nights off. And that's why his attendance record is so cool.
And there's one more thing in that we haven't mentioned yet, but of course you just alluded to it, Joe, without saying it. The insatiable desire to score. The love. Bossy talked about he never got as high a high as when that puck crossed the goal line. And you could see that with Ovi, whether it's his own goal or that unselfish play to Protas a couple of weeks ago. He was just as happy at that Protas goal as he is at all of his 887.
That was instilled by the parents. That was mom and dad. When Alex was 12, 13, 14 and showing signs of being this wonderkin, this incredible talent, this prospect, mom and dad said, focus on love of the game and focus on being your absolute best. And Ovechkin loves the sport genuinely, loves to score goals like nobody I've ever seen, even loves it more when you guys score, loves to celebrate that roar, but he perfected, he worked on that shot so that it's become his signature over and over again. The first time I ever saw him playing on an ice rink, and I did see it in person, was the World Juniors in North Dakota. I've never seen anything that electric, that fast, that strong, that overwhelmingly powerful. Yes, the Fedorovs and the Bures were faster out and out, goal line to goal line, and dazzling in their stick handling abilities. But this was a combination. When I first saw him at age 18, 19, 20, at almost 225 pounds then, 240 plus now, this is a truck that can produce those goals like that.
Linebacker on skates is what I remember. And Barry, you brought up the Messier term because I think, that was like the closest comp too, because you're looking at different body styles of guys who, have the ability to hold up and have the ability to move, hit, and score. There's such a combination. I mean, I remember, growing up and watching the Philadelphia Flyers and seeing Tim Kerr, who was a big guy who would get, and he and Cam Neely were of that power forward. Ovi, different animal with foot and hand and just different, and would deliver the punishing blow and then set up in the office with that rocket. Joe, for you, he's been through, Alex has, and played under so many different coaching styles. How has he changed? I remember, again, from a fan perspective, he was playing like a NASCAR race car with a governor on it under certain coaching systems, but he's always seen his way through.
Without a doubt, the game has changed. I think to put it in the simplest of terms, he is thought of as the Russian machine that never breaks. Okay, we've seen him break this year in Salt Lake City back in November, the broken leg. We've seen him age. We've seen the speed decline. And yet I think as this happens, he becomes that much smarter. It's the ability to go where you need to go to be set up. He's had tremendous playmakers all throughout his career, and most notably, I'm sure that would be Nicholas Backstrom. And in a perfect world, Backstrom would be setting him up for 894, 895, and 900. I only wish that were to be true. But Alex knows now, has the know-how and the mindset of where can I go? How can I be positioned? And it's lockstep with Spencer Carberry now, his head coach, who is trying to put him in more places where he can succeed. That's genuinely what a coach's job is to do with star players, is to put them in the spots where they can be at their best. And that's not to say that the likes of Dale Hunter or Adam Oates didn't do that, or maybe Bruce Boudreau and Barry Trotz definitely put him in the best spots where he had his most successful and most electric kind of days. That's all to be discussed. For me, what's happened with Alex, the maturity has happened that he is cognizant of, I can't separate as well as I used to from all these young Tigers defensively, but what I can do is be smarter, be in the right spot, and hope that the Dylan Stromes and Pierre-Luc Dubois and Jacob Chychrins will find me on the power play and at even strength.
I think one of the things that we under-discuss is that Ovi with his natural talent and his brute strength, he's a student of the game. Let's not forget that he has done this in an era, unlike Gretzky, no disrespect to Gretzky, of course, but goals are tough to come by. And to your point, Joe, as he recognized who he is, as he recognized the type of game the Caps and his coaches wanted him to play, he adapted and turned his natural talent into a cerebral kind of, this is how I'll score goals in this era, with this style, at this age, like nobody I've ever seen.
And Barry, one of the great things too is it's a two-way street. I think it's really interesting to sit with Spencer Carberry, Kirk Muller, Mitch Love, Scotty Allen, all the entire coaching staff for the Caps. They tell our TV and radio and such, our media here in town, that they learn as much from Ovechkin as he learns from them. It's a two-way street in that they're in those offices, they're watching those films, they're in those meetings, and the give and take between superstar athlete and coach is tremendous. And I think Alex would tell you part of the leadership core of the Capitals, the reason why they're doing so well, the likes of Ovechkin, Carlson, Wilson, all those guys who've been there, done that, they not only absorb and sponge up all the information that's being given to them by the likely coach of the year this year in Spencer Carberry, but he will sit there and tell you that he learns just as much from those meetings, and he's willing to implement down the line, whether it be a star player or somebody on your fourth line or your third pair, that the teachings, they go both ways, and that they not only have to characterize with star power, they can also be star power to plumber.
This is all the stuff behind the scenes. That's how you get from 0 to 895.
Exactly.
A lot of guys have talent, but only the really, really special ones with all of the ingredients. And that's why we're looking at something we've never seen before. It's phenomenal to see.
Absolutely. And if you want to be part of it, MeiGray.com, Ovi jerseys from across the Great Chase available now. Request list, get on it, because you don't know who might be part of that memorable tally at the time. Request list for the Caps playoff / set 3 jerseys. Email Dave. Just go to MeiGray.com. You can take care of it there. Dave, as we get closer to history and eventually, knock on wood, surpass history, can you talk about sort of the growth in interest for game-worn jerseys and equipment from the Ovi perspective?
Yeah, so it's interesting because what we've seen really is a focus on the moment. More than ever, there's kind of a gap between Ovechkin jerseys that have good wear but no goals scored in them, and Ovechkin jerseys that have goals scored in them. I do think they get more desirable the closer we get to the record, but as we get closer and closer to the record, we don't know that any more are going to be coming out at this point. After, who knows as well. It's certainly, it's been a long road for MeiGray with Ovechkin, because there was a point prior to the Caps winning the Cup where Ovechkin sat, and it was kind of a rare and undesirable type thing where, Ovechkin had those couple of years where I think he bulked up, got up to close to 250, and maybe had a couple off years for him, like a couple goal totals in the 30s before he bounced back. But once the Caps won the Stanley Cup, that did a number on not just the Ovechkin market, but the Caps game used market. You can't even find jerseys really from that season. I think we might have one in stock here, maybe like a Christian Juice or a Jakob Jarabek or something like that. There's some old random names for you. But yeah, and then you'll see one thing that's slowly developing. There were 3 Ovechkin jerseys that went at Golden Auctions over the weekend. This past weekend, today's March 17th. We're recording. non-hockey collectors who collect game worn are becoming more and more exposed to Ovechkin, and interest is going up and up in terms of, people who aren't even diehard Caps fans while wanting a piece of that moment. And the pieces are drying up.
With a focus on the great chase, it's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 52. Barry Meisel, Dave Meisel, Joe Beninati, the longtime TV play-by-play voice, nice enough to join us inside the warehouse. Joe, Dave just used the phrase focusing on the moment. Any favorite milestone moments or OV moments that you would like to focus on, having the pleasure of called him throughout his brilliant career?
The first one was pretty good. That first goal was really good. You think back to the fact that we had lost an NHL season prior, and that the 2005-2006 season featured Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby, two young men who were foisted with so much responsibility to help bring the game back into a better light. And not only did they do it, but they did it with flying colors. The first 2 or 3 shifts of Alex's career, he crashes into Radoslav Suchy on the boards, knocks a strut out of the back panel of the glass, and you just knew that, this guy is not going to be a perimeter kind of goal scorer, playmaker. This is somebody who's ready to get his nose dirty and is going to hit. All of those, everything that they expected of him, he was in that particular rookie year. And we're doing all of these retrospectives, and this is why I love sitting in with you guys and having these conversations, because it forces me to go back through the highlight reels. And in that rookie season, the goals were breathtaking. Absolutely mind-numbing how a player of that size, speed, and strength produced the way he did. The first goal against Columbus and Pascal Leclerc comes to mind. Less than a half hour into his NHL career, he's on the board. He gets 2 that night. He gets fed by Jeff Halpern. He goes to the Rookie of the Year performance, scores 50, and it just was a sign of everything that was to come. That first one was incredible. 500, I'm telling you, I keep going back to 500. I don't know, aside from maybe a game in the Stanley Cup Final or Eastern Conference Final of 2018 against Tampa, maybe Game 6 comes to mind, where the building was that juiced. The 500 goal against Hammond and the Ottawa Senators, the building went nuts. The reaction was overwhelming. Not that the reaction for 600 against Winnipeg was muted by any stretch, or it was amazing to see how fans in New Jersey celebrated 700 with him, and similarly 800 in Chicago. Fingers crossed, 94, 895, 900 will be celebrated in Washington. We have no control over that. But those moments stand out to me, not only because of the incredible athlete and scorer that Alex is, but for the way Washington hockey has grown with him. In the 2 decades that he's been here, the amount of youth hockey, high school hockey, players who are getting more and more looks from Division I, men and women, going on to play collegiately, the uptick of this sport in this community in the DMV area can be traced back to those first days of Alex Ovechkin. He's had such a wonderful impact on the sport in this community. I could go on and on about memorable moments and goals and milestones, but I keep going back to that first one, like, wow, the all of the fortune telling about these two, and it was Crosby and Ovechkin night after night, one-upping each other. All of the prognostications, all of the predictions and expectations, by look of that first game and that first season, they were going to be the truth.
Scott, I'd like to piggyback that for a second and tie up our Game 1 world, Joe's point about the memorable great goals, and Gretzky. Because a goal that stands out for me, both as a hockey guy and as a game-worn guy, is the night he, can't say beat Boucher, but the amazing goal in Phoenix. So, Joe, as a game-worn company, this guy comes into the league, and it's our job, since we're the exclusive source of the Capitals, to price him, sell him. And in our world, there's so much about, as Dave said, the moments, but also about the future. Is this guy the real deal? Is he just going to be another name that comes and goes? And it was obvious to all of us, and Joe, you described it so well, being right there at ground zero, that this guy was the real deal from that moment. And collectors started coming to us. we priced an Ovechkin rookie jersey out of the box before opening night at $4,500. Set 2, and Joe, the teams wear sets a couple of months, then the next set, then at $7,500.
Right.
And when Ovi scored in Phoenix, a collector had already pre-ordered it. It was his jersey. You're just wearing it. That was our logo, our slogan back then. As soon as it came off Ovi's back, it was sold. Immediately resold. This is 22 years ago. So 20 years ago for $25,000.
Wow.
And went in auction about 3 to 5 years ago for $125,000.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And my memory of the goal, forget the phenomenal. Remember Gretzky was coach of the Coyotes.
Absolutely.
And he looked up and watched the replay. And I read that now. Of course, I'm editorializing, as we writers like to do. When Gretzky said, "Oh, man, he could break my record one day."
But it was funny.
Different.
That day in the rink, it was in Glendale, and I remember the cutaway look of Gretzky on the bench. It was almost like the dog hearing the whistle, craning his head, going, is that actually happening? The fans inside the arena, at first blush, they knew it was something special. But when it was played back on the Jumbotron inside of that rink, the oohs and the ahs and the whoas, it was amazing to watch. And if I remember correctly, it just happened to be the last goal of a 6-1 blowout.
Yes.
And I was happy. I learned right off the bat with this particular cat, as a play-by-play announcer, you had better be locked in, because something could be happening that might be indescribable at any moment. And here it was, the chance to describe something that I am sure I will never, ever see again. It's called The Goal for a reason. And I remember what I said. I remember what the tagline was. And I remember the absolute awe that was in the crowd when they actually saw it play back. And it was simply sensational to me. That's all I wanted to say about it. That's what came to mind. You can't script something like that. But all of the replays, the subsequent replays, and the communications from players to them amongst themselves and amongst teams and the coaches, that they had seen something they're likely to never, ever see again. It just gave you the idea that this could be somebody special. If he had the benefit of great health and good teammates, that he might get there, that he might be able to be a player who's a Pantheon Hall of Famer. And now we're seeing that he might just take down the greatest goal-scoring record of all time.
Yeah. Another thing to say about Ovi, and forgive me for referencing Bossy, Chico Rash, who faced him every day in practice, said to me, "Mike Bossy is a genius at scoring goals. Alex Ovechkin is a genius at scoring goals."
It's when I talk to goalies, I always ask, is that shot heavy? They say, yeah, it's heavy, it's fast, it's accurate, and the thing that makes it different is the curve of his stick. The way he opens it up almost like a sand wedge and has this toe curve, it creates an effect of spin on the puck that gives goalies fits. So what they always tell me, in particular, Tim Thomas in Boston, who faced him quite a bit when Alex was scoring mid-50s and higher, Ben Bishop, big guy who played him a lot when they were in the Southeast Division together, they expressed it as trying to stop a puck that's being thrown at you like an explosive slider from a baseball pitcher. It will come at you and you think it's right at your chest protector, and then a split second later, it's over your blocker. It'd be wide of the post, and then a split second later, it would be high glove in the corner of the net. And the goalies would have very difficult times to react. It's like a 95-mile-an-hour knuckleball or slider that just gives you the worst time if you're a goalie.
Got some tail on it. It's got some movement on it. It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 52, with focus on Alexander Ovechkin and the great Gr8 chase, joined by Dave Meisel, Barry Meisel. Pleasure to be joined by Joe Beninati, longtime TV voice of the Washington Capitals. Barry, using your phrase, piggybacking, you mentioned the goal. I'm sure through MeiGray, as they've been partnered up with the Caps for quite some time, there have been plenty of significant Ovi pieces that you and Dave and the MeiGray team have handled. What else comes to mind, whether it be a gold puck, or another historic sweater?
Well, two things come to mind for me. There's no doubt that when you think of Ovechkin and you think of goals, you think of the puck. We were fortunate enough to get, several years ago, before Ovechkin started keeping every goal, which he's done now for a couple of years, a couple of hat tricks, mostly on the road, where maybe the team had to get out of town and Brock couldn't find the guy to get the goal. So to get an Ovechkin hat trick, all 3 goals in a game for a collector, authenticated by MeiGray, is phenomenal. And we've had a bunch of those. And in the earlier years, and Dave alluded to where Ovi was before the Cup, collectors wanted jerseys that were worn extensively by Ovi, because in the game-worn world, it's the moments, and you could tell a player's character by his jersey. The guy who takes 1 or 2 hits, you'll see a couple of marks and a couple of stains and a couple of dings. Ovi's jerseys look like a Russian machine that had gone through the mill. Taking the hits, giving the hits, going in front of the net, all the stuff he received as teams try to stop him. So I remember the 19-game jerseys that were worn in 19 games with 17 repairs, the things in the real down and dirty part of our hobby. Then once the Cup, Ovi's finals jerseys, and as our collectors know, with a MeiGray team and a MeiGray program, the teams wear jerseys until there's a clinching game, and then the Caps wore a red and white set for the players. So Ovi's got his Game 5 jersey. Every Cap, I would hope, still has their Game 5 jersey the night they won in Vegas. But for collectors to go after, and the top guys who wanted the red and white Ovi finals that we sold, is without compare, because let's face it, it's all about the Cup. And I'm so glad for Ovi's permanent record, for his legend, that he's got a Cup. And I'd love to hear Joe's opinion, but the Caps, I mean, they can do it again, even though the turnaround from last year to this year is remarkable. But I think they got a real shot. I think there's a couple of pieces, like with every team, a couple of things that have to fit and work. And Florida is the defending champ. But it's remarkable to me that we've got the great chase and a Stanley Cup, potential Stanley Cup finalist, winner, President's Trophy potential winner. That's an amazing combination of things. It's not just about Ovi and the games be damned.
Because we really thought.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I'll just chip in. We really thought that, a couple of years ago, the Caps had an aging team with Oshie, Backstrom, Carlson, and I think we really thought that the main event was going to be the gold chase. But, the team was excellent last year in Carberry's first year of his system. And the second year, it's really gelling. And then this refresh they've done over the past couple of years with guys like Strome, with Tom Wilson's emergence into a true top player. This is a real team.
You've given me
a real competitive team.
You've given me some good avenues to go, and I'll go down 3 different paths. First for you, Dave, the expression they use in Washington is threading the needle. Brian McClellan, Chris Patrick talked about threading the needle, keeping the Caps competitive while Alex was chasing this record. They didn't want to have a bottom-feeding team while Ovechkin was going after the Gretzky record. So in the offseason, the 7 players that they brought in the offseason really helped make this team's pace of play better. Spencer Carberry did a wonderful job getting them into the playoffs last year with a team that couldn't play the system he wanted. They had to make a mid-course correction, and to their credit, top to bottom, they got in and they were summarily dismissed by the Rangers. This year's team, when they try to thread that needle from the beginning, has meshed and gelled. And Barry, this is why we're talking about them as a potential Eastern Conference champion, as a potential President's Trophy winner. They gelled from the beginning. They've played extremely well, and they've proven that they can play the offensive games, beat you 6-5. They know from last year how to beat you 2-1, and this group is getting tip-top goaltending from Logan Thompson. That's right there, almost on par with Connor Hellebuck out in Winnipeg. There are a lot of facets to like about this team. But Barry, you had me thinking when you talked and brought up the hat tricks. When I first saw Alex Ovechkin, I thought, you know what? There might be a record that's going to fall, but it might be the single game record. I've been blessed to call 2 5-goal games in my career. Now, what is 29, 30 years in the NHL? Sergei Fedorov against the Capitals in Detroit. Mika Zibanejad Rangers against the Capitals at Madison Square Garden. I was for certain that Ovechkin was going to have that kind of Darryl Sittler 6-goal, Joel Malone 7-goal kind of game once in his career. He's treated us all to 4 different 4-goal games. And one of those 4-goal games, he's bleeding all over the jersey. So I'm sure that jersey has got to be really, really special. But I thought that Alex by now would have had one of those incredible 5 or 6s. He hasn't treated us to that. It's not likely to happen now, but wouldn't it be wonderful in the midst of the great chase for it to happen? And then, guys, with respect to the Stanley Cup, I've said this publicly before, 894, 895 are definitely on Alex's mind, but I think the number that's on his mind the most is 2. He wants that second cup so desperately for this group, for the organization, for the ownership group that showed so much faith in him. I just think that it would be an amazing story if Washington were to be able to rekindle those kind of championship vibes when a lot of people thought that window had closed a long time ago.
Joe, do you think they match up poorly against anybody?
I don't know about
the big teams.
I don't think there's a poor matchup out there, Barry, but there'll be some uncomfortable ones. And I think if you're going to win a title, you have to go through that. You're not going to get 4 sweeps. As of today, I mean, we're taping on the 17th of March. It would be the Rangers. Oh, boy. I don't necessarily think anybody wants Shesterkin in a best of 7, but that might be uncomfortable. The Caps just beat the Rangers at Madison Square Garden in overtime. It wouldn't be easy. Detroit's speed, Ottawa's speed would be interesting. There's always a matchup out in the second round. If you were to get through, Carolina plays the Caps extremely well. And again, I go back to speed and Ron Brindamore's forechecking concepts, which would make them difficult. If you think of them as an Eastern Conference final team, and I tend to believe that they can and should get to round 3, well, what's waiting for you there? And an incredibly talented Toronto team, or those 2 squads in Florida that are both outstanding. And then still somebody puts Florida down, they're still the champions. And those teams are getting better. And I watched Tampa Bay recently improve quite a bit. And there's nobody in the world who wants to bump into Vasilevsky in a best of 7. There are matchups there that are going to be uncomfortable. I think that's all part of the process if you're going to win it all.
It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 52, The Great Chase. Pleased to be joined by Joe Beninati, longtime television voice, broadcaster for the Washington Capitals, the play-by-play guy you know and love and should. Dave Meisel, Barry Meisel of the MeiGray family. Barry, of course, president and COO of MeiGray. And Dave, VP of Business Development, also Director of Sales and Director of the Capitals program. He's gonna be quite busy and has been quite busy. Dave, over to you. And Barry alluded to it a little earlier. Does it help the Great Chase from the collector perspective that Alex himself is such a huge collector? I think that people like that, even though it may be harder to get goal pucks or this or that. I think it makes it that much cooler, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, like, just to look at the flip side for a second, nobody complains about it. I mean, like, the one thing I've found, not the one thing of many I've found out about collectors in this hobby is they do respect and like when the player collects or wants a piece of his thing. And many collectors are very, like, accommodating of that. Ovechkin, it's been the case for some years now that we see him take stuff that's related to milestones, and the NHL CBA has provisions for that. But yeah, I imagine if I'm a collector and say I go to Moscow and I want to go to the Ovechkin Museum, and I've also got a goal puck or a stick or a jersey worn by Ovi, and I'm seeing this stuff, like, I get an extra kick out of it because, hey, I got something that could just as easily have a place here. And just as luck would have it, I can also throw in that I was talking to a collector this morning who I think he bought an Ovechkin jersey from us about 2 summers ago. And he was talking about like how he still loves having it and stuff like that. And I kind of went back and forth with him. I was like, yeah, there's not going to be many of these the end of the chase jerseys out there. And he's like, yep, so I've still got mine. That's cool that Ovechkin's getting his though. As far as it dries up supply, demand goes up because there's fewer out there. So, ultimately, like, I'd love to be a full showcase for everything that Ovechkin scores, tell the full tapestry. But, we're reasonable guys and we know this is historic. I think Alex probably saw it before we did, that he was getting close to it. So it's cool for him that he's going to go home owning so much of his stuff. And I love to see what they do with all of it when all is said and done, when you can put the display, the museum together. Like, I'm just thinking, what does it actually look like? Because we know there are sticks, we know there are gloves, helmets, jerseys, and there's a lot of them. Like, and there's plenty we haven't touched ever. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that kind of coalesces at the end of the day.
Guys, teach me for a second, Scotty. When Alex gets to 893, will he be wearing 12 jerseys that particular next game, or for the moment of 894 and 895? Teach me. I don't know.
Joe, thank you for go ahead, Dave.
I'll take that one. So basically right now what happens is every time Ovechkin scores a goal, he's keeping the jersey, but he doesn't necessarily change out of it immediately. So last night he scores in which period of the San Jose game?
San Jose game was the third period, Dave.
So he wears a jersey in the first and second periods that we had earmarked for that game. Essentially how it goes is if Ovechkin doesn't score, MeiGray maybe lets it ride for another game so we can get it back and sell it. Or if Ovechkin does score, he takes it home at the end of the night, and then he's in a new white jersey for the next road game, new red jersey for the next home game. Plus, there's that one.
That's a big equipment budget.
Well, that's where we come in, Joe. That's all part of the.
I'll bet.
Yeah. So I'll take it from here on the planning side. For the record, we are in talks with the Capitals to be authenticating everything in real time in those nights. And Ovechkin has been kind enough and is considering, because the Hockey Hall of Fame is calling and MeiGray is calling and the Caps want something for the building. So it's possible, and it's really a work in progress based on, and let's face it, they're trying to win a Stanley Cup. They're not trying to, this is not a movie where a cut Ovi wardrobe change. So if Ovi could wear a jersey each period in those last couple of games, he might. But it is, and this is part of the beauty of authentication and the world MeiGray lives in, it's what happens in real time. If it's 2-2 in the third period and it's a really tough game and Ovi's at 893 and we know he's not thinking about 894, he's thinking about that win because there's Winnipeg in the backs of everybody's mind and the President Trophy. It may happen, it may not. So the team is equipped to change. Ovi's not wearing 12 a game, but he could wear 2 in a game. He could change once. He might change each period when the record is there. My understanding is the NHL, they're going to stop just as they did for Gretzky when he does it. So it's a work in progress, but the plan is for Ovi's going to keep, obviously, that museum in Moscow is going to be the owner of 895. And hopefully the other jersey worn in the game, or the ones worn in each period, will go for fans in Washington to see and for one lucky collector.
Barry, if you could add a little bit more, pull the microscope out and just sort of take us through real-time authentication, especially during a milestone like this. Where is MeiGray? What's going on? And obviously, much like a news reporter, you're not the story. You're not there to be part of the story. You're just there to make sure that the integrity stands up.
So let's use the finals as an example, because what 893, 4 or 5, will be as close to a final. So a MeiGray representative is somewhere embedded behind, adjacent to the locker room, or Brock will put us in the shower. We've been in toilet stalls.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
It's very
And when the
Watergate,
jerseys
Joe.
come in, as soon as the game is
but honest.
as soon as the game is over or the period is over, that jersey will come off the player's body right to us. Every jersey is individually serial numbered and tagged before the season. So we'll know that Ovi will score an XO 442. If we're lucky, it'll be 88888 or 895, but probably not. And we will in real time confirm that jersey, authenticate that jersey, isolate that jersey, and it will go to back in Obi's bag or the relevant collection. The interesting thing I have, though, is, guys, and I don't know how much time we have, but what's the final one? What's the big next? Is it 963? Is it 906? I mean, he's got another year on his contract. I think he loves to play. I think we all know. I mean, can he hit 940, 950? I think he can.
I'm just going to say it. I wouldn't even rule out 1,000. I'm not saying it's likely, but
Dave, I wish.
Again, if he didn't keep getting better,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be saying that.
Joe, do you think they sign him again after next year if he wants to play?
I get the impression from Alex that the contract, when it ends a season from now, that will be his last year. I think there's always been part of him that perhaps wants to entertain, and I heard Scott use the word dynamo. There's part of Alex that I think would like to play maybe 1 year back home, if it's possible, if his body would allow it. So I think, again, nothing, you never say never, but I believe the end of this contract, when it expires next season, would be the last time that we would see him playing here in North America in the NHL. Now, if he's good enough to go and get 100 more next year, there's no 1,000, Dave. We'll get in the 900s and happily well into the.
I'm just saying things change, and if he takes that Yager arc, if he decides he's going to play till he's 45 and he wants to play for Dynamo Moscow at age 43, who knows?
No, Dave, I get your point. What happens if the Capitals get close this year and they don't win the cup, and then next year they get some more young puppies who come into town to make them an even better team? Does he then go to ownership and say, hey, you know what? I'd like a 1-year extension. Give me a 2-year extension. I'm still physically fit and I'm able to do it. And then now you are talking about possibly 1,000. I see your mind. I see this. You guys are using you're using your noodle. I like it.
I'm going on record because I love this. I'm saying 936. That's nice. My number. 936.
Oh, wow.
There it is. Barry's thrown out the bingo, the roulette chip. A couple more minutes, gentlemen. Joe, you are lucky enough. You're excellent at your job. You've been doing this for quite some time. You're part of a blessed club who gets to call a great game from an amazing perch and see the world's best do the world's greatest things. Have you thought about what it's going to be like, and sort of, if you can take us, calling that momentous occasion and all the goals leading up to it? What is that like? What do you imagine it's going to be like? Have you started to think about what the call could be like?
Following this player for so long, he's given you a lot of reps, whether it be his first or 100 through 800. Luckily, I've had 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, didn't get 800, desperately want 894, 895, and 900. And fingers crossed it will happen. A couple of ways to approach this. Without a doubt, in the last few weeks, I think I'd be lying if I didn't say my senses have been heightened. It is nerve-wracking to think about what's potentially going to happen, and this is going to be an all-time great record and hopefully one that may never be broken. I don't think you approach the game the night that 894, 895, or 900 were to happen and sit there and go, well, I want to say this specifically because the game's organic. And all I can sit there and tell you is that whomever has a play-by-play call of it, TV, radio, national, local, what you want for it to be more than anything, those 3 goals, beautiful, clear, clean Ovechkin goals, not, Ooh, was that borderline offside? Oh, did he tip that? Ooh, was there goalie interference there? You want them to be perfect examples of what this player has done for so long. Now, you work with what you get. 500 was beautifully crystal clear. 600 was the third whack against Hellebuck. 700 was a beautiful one-time slap shot. Those work out well, and what I focus upon more than anything as a play-by-play person is I want to be accurate, I want to be entertaining, and I want to be informative in that rip. And I don't want to be too heavy-handed. This is Alex's moment. This is hockey's moment. This is a moment for the fans. I don't want to trample that with words. The Phoenix goal, the goal against the Coyotes, for example, 2 words, and it was good enough. And I think it's really done nicely and held up very, very well after the accuracy of the call, getting that, dropping the hammer at the right time, which is why you hope for it to be a nice, clean breakaway kind of goal or a slap shot one-timer or something that there's no doubt. Don't have it be, oh, did that graze the post? Was that in? The last thing we want is for that to happen. But when you're calling it, as I approach the rink that night, if there's any chance that it's going to be 94, 95, or 900, without a doubt, every time he hits the ice, I'm hyper-focused. It's not like I'm willy-nilly the rest of the time, but I'm extremely hyper-focused because of what's going on. And the analysts, whether it be Craig Laughlin, and I hope he's there that night, or Day, or Alan May, whomever is side-by-side with me in the booth, they're going to have the idea of the timing of it all and give me enough room to do it justice. And that's all I want to do is treat it with the right reverence, the right respect, and get out of the way. Then let it become the producer and director. Let them show you all the reaction shots, the happy teammates, the happy goal scorer, the dejected goalie, the overwhelming joy in the stands. All of these momentous occasions get woven in that TV broadcast, and that's where the time for us in the booth to just sip it. We shut up. We lay out and let all of that unfold. But for those 4 or 5 seconds leading up to slamming the goal, the 2 or 3 seconds of the tagline, yeah, there's some thought as to what I might want to say, but I can't say that I'm going to write it down and deliver it because it may be a goal that hits off of his helmet and goes in. Who knows? Please just let it be clean, please.
True history in the making, and I'm glad that I'm glad we're all here to be a part of it and enjoy it from a multitude of angles. Barry, Dave, we'll close with this. It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 52. The Meisel family, MeiGray, the MeiGray family has been doing game-worn stuff for decades. Barry, it's sort of subjective because some people are like, oh, I'm a goalie person, or I'm a forward person, or I'm a defensive person. Is there such thing as an NHL Mount Rushmore of memorabilia, and where does Ovi stand? And Dave, you can take a whack at that piñata as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the moments and the people. Gretzky, Howe, Ovechkin, Messier, Bobby Hull. Those are the players, and collectors want the best of the best that they can get. To Dave's point earlier, we know Ovi's going to keep the jersey. We know that most of Ovi's top record-breaking stuff is Ovi's, but to get close to this goal, to get something out of the building that night, to get 879, because it's right now, I think 879, and Dave could confirm this, is the highest goal number we had. Though he's on Mount Rushmore. We knew he was getting there. We talked earlier about how long ago we knew, but there's no doubt that they're already finished chiseling. It's just a matter of how much gray is going to be on the beard by the time he's done.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in our hobby, there's sometimes kind of like, I guess the word is disparities in terms of a player's popularity in the game-worn hobby versus his popularity in popularity or aptitude to just hockey fans. As far as the Mount Rushmore, it's like Joe has said during the broadcast, like Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer of all time. in that conversation with Bossy. When you still talking about the greatest player of all time, it's Gretzky. Does McDavid ever enter that conversation? Who knows? But there's also definitely a whatever the opposite of a recency bias is. Like, McDavid and Ovechkin. Well, Ovechkin might be. McDavid's the present. Ovechkin is definitely a bit of the present, but also a lot of the past. But those guys, since the game-worn hobby has grown, it's much easier to get a jersey from one of those guys than, say, like a Ray Bourque or a Patrick Roy or, really anybody whose career wound down before the year 2000.
How about Mario Lemieux?
Tough to find, but possible to find. I mean, Bobby Hull's one that you don't see a lot of that. Gordie Howe, you don't see a lot of that. Gretzky, you do see fairly often, but the price point, like the entry point there is, like realistically can be prohibitive for people. So it's really interesting to see like how this hobby treats people. And as this hobby grows, it's like there are still, interestingly enough, and we have some people here, like younger collectors who are actually more interested in the past than what they're watching in the present. Like finding 25-year-olds or 27-year-olds like my coworker Patrick Mindy, who are really into vintage hockey jerseys, is really cool to see. So I look forward to seeing where it goes.
I'll give you one more. We haven't talked about him at all, but Rocket Richard, whom the goal scoring trophy is named.
Sure.
We recently sold, and here's something for you, Joe, just how collectors are. We had and sold Ovechkin's 544th the night he tied the Rocket.
Nice.
Ovi kept 545.
Amazing.
So those are the things you talk about. The Mount Rushmore, a jersey, Ovi's 545th goal jersey, maybe one of Ovi's favorites, because that's the night he passed the great Rocket Richard. But that's eons ago in this great chase. So it's amazing how much history this 20-year-old story is. It's just, and Joe, congratulations on seeing every minute of it. It's got to be a thrill of a lifetime.
Oh, it is. It is. And in a perfect world, 894, 895, 900 are at home at Capital One Arena. They're live on Monumental Sports Network locally, and they're picked up nationally by the national TV partners. I know there's a distinct possibility that this record may fall during a national televised exclusive broadcast. And if that were to happen, still, it's Ovi's moment. It's not about me. It's certainly not about us as a company at Monumental, but we would love to have the chance to be there. And in recent days and in the last week, they've made an agreement between the NHL, the rights holders, and the local rights holder here in Washington, Monumental Sports Network, for us to be on the call as an archive. So I will be calling it. You may not hear me that night if it's on a national platform, if it's on ABC, if it's on ESPN, if it's on TNT. But at the very least, there will be a Monumental call of it for the archives or for social media purposes. And I'm thrilled that they've made that available to us. It can't be more grateful than that.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. There's a scoop, Scott. And you certainly deserve that, Joe. And when I think about it, as I have been the last month, I only hear, I hope it's a one-timer, because I love your one-timer call on the power play in the office. And I just want to hear you screaming he scores. Then I'm excited to know what comes next. And thank you for letting me know you don't know, because that's the best kind of call.
I think Barry and Dave and Scott, I toss around ideas of what might and what should be positioned there, but you don't want to have too much be there.
Yeah.
Got to be some historical reference to it. More than anything, what I pride myself on, and please, this is why I want it to be nice and clean. This is why I want to see it well. I hope I'm in a position where I can see it and call it right on time. You don't want to be late. You don't want to be hesitant. You want it to be what you've done and what you've tried to do for all these years with him. And then tag it, give it that historical reference, give it energy, and then let it live. It breathes.
All respect to Doc Emmerich, but you don't want it to be like the Patrick Kane game-winning goal in the in overtime, where it like that puck snuck into the net, like through the side netting, basically.
Dave, play-by-play guy's worst nightmare.
Oh, I
Worst.
think
And that's why I'm telling you, it is nerve-wracking. But thankfully, this player has brought us to it. And this is collectively, as a producer, as a director, as the photographers, audio guys who are capturing, graphics guys, all of us as a team at Monumental Sports Network. We've watched this player for 20 years. And knock on wood, we've done a really nice job of getting it right. Please let us get this one clearly, concisely, accurately, the right way, and treat it with the reverence that it deserves, and then get out of the way and let everything unfold. That's what you want. That's what you dream of. But nervously, I sit there and go, oh my gosh, is it going to be one that's off of John Carlson's shin pad? Was that tip? Please, God, no. Don't let it be that.
Well, you know, as we've talked this hour, I was thinking about the potential nightmares, but I can't think of, and I don't want to jinx it, so I will knock on wood, but I don't remember too many of Ovi's goals ever being challenged. I'm thinking, oh my God, what if it's a offside rush? But Ovi's I see him as a one-timer.
Could you imagine the eye in the sky, or the video coach in the dressing room chirps out to whomever the opposition coach is, by the way, coach, that was offside. Let's challenge it. Oh, and then now you're dead, because now you've called the goal. Hopefully you've tagged it well. You're happy. You've seen all the reaction. And then you see the referee come over and go, oh, by the way, there's a coach's challenge. No, Barry, no, please.
Oh, my God. Well, I'm thinking of where they are the last few games. I'm thinking of coaches. I got to believe there's a coach or two, unless the game absolutely meant something to the home team, that would put that iPad into shut up. Yeah. Get rid of that tape.
Yeah, but I can imagine coaches who absolutely would do it. Like, I bet Tortorella would do it.
And then, that the whole other discussion is, Wayne and Alex both scored a lot of empty net goals. Alex's 802 was an empty net goal. Again, I realize they all count, but again, in a perfect world, it's not an empty netter. 894, 95, or 900 is not. And then there are people who'll be yelling at me, Joe, every goal's a goal. I understand that, but you want that climactic moment to be a great Alex Ovechkin goal, one that he's demonstrated time after time over 2 decades. And the last thing you want it to do is to sit there and go, oh gosh, here's an offside challenge. Ooh.
Yeah. Hanging in the balance. Gentlemen, this was an absolute blast. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
I got one more quick question, Joe. Would you rather you said you want to see it happen at Capital One Arena. Would you rather see him wearing red or black?
He loves the black. I think the red is more symbolic of what he's been. I think I associate red with him more. We're in a rock the red kind of town and era still, I believe. I think the black looks great on the club. Personally, when I'm doing hockey games against LA with a jet black uniform, and when the Caps use their blacks, their retro look, it's not as easy to follow the puck with an all black uni. I see as a play-by-play announcer, I think I see the puck so much better when they're in red or white, and when the opposition is in a non-black color. Maybe that's just me, but I know he loves to wear that black. And usually when he wears the black, they score. I think there's only one more instance this season where they are wearing the black. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
Doing the math too, it's quite possible it's going to come down. That's later in the season. It's possible it will be in black.
Is it? Can they only wear black at home, or can they wear black on the road?
I would be shocked if they changed that at this stage in the game, considering all those back of house factors that we deal with. They got to be ready. So I'm not sure we see the black. Besides, I think it's the middle of April, the last game of the season. I have that up here.
The season is at Pittsburgh.
It's
the last home game, maybe.
Yeah. They got the Columbus game, the 13th.
Yes.
Yeah,
April 13th.
that's it. That's
there
it.
you go. So see, Dave, again, you guys think like, your wardrobe consultants here. I didn't even realize that the possibility was there for the black to be the winner. It could very well be that day.
I'll give you another little fact. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that shirt off that back's night?
Yes, it is.
Oh, could you imagine Ovi? Someone draws Ovi out of the big manila envelope and they're freaking out. And then all of a sudden, Alex says, actually, this one's for me. Very, very sorry.
Well, we're going to be ready for that, as always.
With an attorney, they start negotiating right then and there?
Joe, as you probably know, there have been discussions about this.
God.
There will be lawyers.
So you guys got me thinking. This is awesome. Thanks for bringing me in.
You want drama, Joe. We've got even more drama, and it has to do with the sweaters. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Today was an absolute blast. It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 52. If you want to be part of this living history, of this historical chase, the great chase, just contact Dave, MeiGray.com, DW Meisel at MeiGray.com. The request list is open now for Caps playoff and set 3 sweaters as they go. And again, Ovi jerseys from across the great chase are available. To you, Mr. Beninati, thank you for sharing your view throughout this incredible career and journey. We appreciate your work. Continued success, good health, my friend, and we will talk soon enough, I'm sure. Until next time, the warehouse is closed.